Today is a reflection of our own heritage. It goes back so far. There are many strands to the weave that make up Irishness, and many of those strands are represented here today. And for me anyway, it's just a wonderful feeling to be here with people from such different backgrounds, different parts of the country, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the day. We've got some...
Gwini cór. Yn gydol sios ar mahan hain ar sam fan céile saifin, faram firkin fúlsar o viliug, the Áras and Uachtaráin, Tom Wood, ag man fuintse cabim hinden, des na garden parties ag an puinte sha, agus inta gan rada go will shiftake o cuile part den tír agus varim ar a good me fólse carry vrov iliog. Mo vicus le John, as faimu mal farati tranona, agus tamon a week go. May I just say how delighted Sabina to welcome you all today to Áras and Uachtaráin. And I think so many of you have come from so many different parts of the country. Some of you have travelled very long distances to be with, and you're particularly welcome. And I hope that you all that you enjoy your visit to Áras and Uachtaráin, which has been, indeed, as John said, has had a long heritage. It has been the home of Irish presidents since 1938. The first president and the ninth president, the first president, and Dr. Even and Dr. Douglas Hyde, when he moved in, I think they just about had running water. The place had fallen into disrepair, but he made a distinguished contribution and continued writing during his period during that first presidency. Every year, Sabina and I, when we're planning the garden parties, about 7 of them or 8 of them in all, we pick particular themes for the garden parties, and they give us an opportunity, yes, to meet and to recall together with those who come to visit us and celebrate what we believe to be the shared efforts of so very many people, quietly and continuously through the year, to celebrate what are the best aspects of our common humanity. Today's garden party is a celebration dedicated to the themes of community and family. It acknowledges family and community in all of their diversity, both of them, and gives us the opportunity to pay tribute to the generosity on the part of so many who are giving of what is often their most precious resource, time, I think, for the public good. I think they do so, and these are values that became ever so much more important in the experience of everybody during COVID, values of care, compassion, and empathy. And here in Ireland, despite the many challenges of the contemporary moment and of the commercialism of our times, with so much pressure for the individuation of experience, we have as a people thankfully remained at heart in our Griamark, a creative, resourceful and warm people. And I think that there is a firm sense of support for what one might call the decencies of relationships and justice. This is indicated on the huge public response that there is to humanitarian crises. But it is also something which I have such a strong sense of time and again as driving the spirit of so many groups and communities that I have met in the years since I have been President of Ireland. I also wish to share with so many others as well what I feel must be the heartbreak at humanitarian crises that are unnecessary. I cannot have in all of my speeches so far to say, how can one watch children dying of malnutrition or of dehydration on our television screens, and that it repeats itself week after week unnecessarily? And what a great species failure it is that these humanitarian instincts that I celebrate today have not informed the decision-making at its highest level that enables us to put some control on the war that we do not need and the peace that we so desperately need. I sense that here this afternoon, some of the people I met already, and it's such a pleasure to welcome so many of you whose altruism and generosity of spirit has immeasurably enriched the lives of others, who provide support services and the hand of friendship to those within our society who are in special need of care assistance. And there are so many involved in that is very impressive, this practical sharing of citizenship in the very best sense of that value. I do want to take the opportunity to welcome all of the organizations that are represented this afternoon. And there are so many, and they're so different, all dealing with different aspects of our society. For example, we have members here from Kinship Care, Troll and One Family, and also present today with us are members from As I Am, who have this summer been helping us. They've worked with members of the Áras to create the beautiful sensory space on the grounds near the marquee for any person who may wish to take the opportunity of some time out. The families and all our unions, in their many various and diverse forms, are the building blocks of our society, and it is within them that we rely on for provision of those opportunities of first learning and experience of the values and virtues of love, compassion and responsibility, providing as they do foundations upon which we will rely as we build our lives together. It is the primary source of offering a sanctuary of safety, support and understanding, and that is why families and communities addressing special needs of vulnerabilities should be at the top of all those lists deciding on alternatives for state expenditure. And I say this consciously as budgets are being prepared. In modern-day Ireland, the fabric of our society is woven together now from threads of diverse forms of the family, working in vibrant communities themselves, different and continually changing, seeking to make it a place that recognizes and embraces the values of pluralism, diversity and inclusivity. And we must resource that space for that richness if we are to achieve all that it promises. The traditional notion of the Irish family was often too property-based and authoritarian as a result. It has changed, and I think that is for the better. I think, too, there was a European thing. When I was a very old social and neglected social anthropologist who was studying the mafia, used to describe amoral familism, that notion that you concentrated only within the family and that the water dropped off a cliff after that. I remember discussing that as a young student. Yes, the families we have now are broader and more inclusive, and our view is one that encompasses the many different forms that can make up a loving and supportive unit, reflecting the diversity of love, care and support that defines the essence of what is a family in Ireland in 2024. In Ireland, 1 in 5 people live in a one-parent family. 1 in 4 families with children is a one-parent family. 86.4% of one-parent families are headed by a mother. There are 150,000 cohabiting couples with 75,000 cohabiting couples with children. 40% of births are outside of marriage, and 40% of families are non-marital. That is why it is necessary. That is what it is, and that is what needs recognition, support, and it is what we build on. Today we recognise and celebrate all of these many forms of contemporary Irish life. Families of all shapes and sizes, including, amongst others, lone parent families, blended families, same-sex parents, and extended families, where grandparents, aunts and uncles play pivotal roles. And that we're so fortunate to have them all and call them our Irish families. And when it comes to caring and statutory provision, our history records that getting to the point of seeing the basic necessities for life, living and participation as a responsibility of the state has been a slow struggle since the foundation of the state. It's 73 years since the Mother and Child Scheme of Noel Brown was defeated that would have provided care for mothers and their children from the point of conception through life. And this was brought about because of ideological opposition to the role of the state, which has reflected itself in so many negatives for us all, including the inability to plan. I think that this was combined with an authoritarian emphasis on what should be personal and nuclear family provision. And changing it, let me say as I move on, is an unfinished project. Today is an important opportunity to celebrate the carers who are with us, carers who embody the very essence of empathy, supporting one another, lifting each other up, seeking to ensure that every person has the opportunity to live with dignity and purpose. Thinking beyond the self is the basis of all ethics. Carers embody what defines the ethical, the values of kindness, compassion and generosity, concerned, engaged citizens, making enormous private sacrifices, giving up, as I have already said, precious time, personal freedom and opportunities to look after a loved one. But such sacrifices should never be allowed to be a continuing mask on what is an insufficient, rights-based state provision. It is the absence of that publicly supported, rights-based state provision that places such an unfair burden on carers. Despite the invaluable service carers provide, carers often go unrecognised and unsupported, and it is imperative that your contributions, your dedication, compassion and resilience in advocating for greater recognition and support for carers is seen for the invaluable resource that is, as an identifier of unmet need. May I thank all of you who are here today for all of that valuable work that you do in so many different ways, and for the essential contribution that you make to advocacy for the creation of a fairer and more equal society. And your presence here today as guests of Sabina's and mine is an encouraging reminder of the many quiet and unsung acts of kindness that take place every day in cities, towns, villages, and suburbs across the country, of the listening ear, the practical assistance, the advocacy, the tedious fundraising, and the many other demonstrations of solidarity with those who will benefit from your work. I believe that the principles your work embodies, and I think it can serve as a guide in our commitment to building a truly inclusive Ireland based on those fundamental values that could represent the best of ourselves: solidarity, care, compassion, and kindness. The essence of community, after all, in any meaningful sense, lies in our ability to come together, to share common values, and to support one another. Now, stressing the values we need and seek does not give us any excuse for ignoring their contradictions when they are staring us in the face. When the facts of what threaten our lives together are put before us, we must act. For example, we have a continuing scourge of violence in our lives, particularly violence against women. And I am so glad that Sarah Benson from Women's Aid is, among others, with us this afternoon. Her organisation told us in their 2023 report of 40,000 calls to them for domestic violence. I strongly support her remarks too on recent events and the challenge of violence that we must face with urgency. I think this is very important that we do this, because doing that doesn't stop us from being the cheerful, wonderful people that we can afford to be on an occasion like this. But we are not required to say that things are right when they are clearly not right. Inclusive and ethical societies, after all, grow from communities that are ethical in their structure and practice, communities that work together in recognizing the needs of all their members, including in particular those who are vulnerable, marginalized. Such societies have been the ideal, the utopias, for which egalitarians have struggled throughout the ages. We need such utopias now more than ever. I remember when I wrote my poem, Old Utopians Never Die, I was actually told in a way that at a good time in philosophy in the English language, people spoke about the kind of world it might be, and they were proud to be called utopians. And then as we got on the worst kinds of speculative capitalism in the 80s and whatever, it was used as an insult. You're just being a utopian or whatever. As if real people were putting real greed into practice for the benefit of themselves and others. I sense, I must say, in the world, and particularly among the young in different parts of the world, a return to seeing the values of seeing utopianism in the sense of the possibilities of the better, peaceful, responsible world that is sustainable and that can be a legacy to future generations and the present. I think that all of that is incredibly important. No, we need our utopias, and we need to invite and engage people of all ages and circumstances to be with us in them. I think, surely, in recent times, the global discourse has been dominated by reports of war and conflict, and we're living through a period when militarism has replaced diplomacy. No longer do you see the strong fingers with good minds, minds beyond the present, informed by the different subjects that I have been mentioning about philosophy and politics and whatever, seeking to understand conflict, avoid conflict, solve conflict. The argument is, what armaments do you have? Militarism has replaced diplomacy with disastrous results in consciousness, but it can be turned around. We learned from the United Nations last week that global conflicts killed 3 times as many children and twice as many women in 2023 than in the previous year. And overall civilian fatalities swelled by 72%. In so many areas across the world, killings and injuries of civilians have become a daily occurrence as the international armaments industry prospects and nuclear weapons are stockpiled. So may I suggest that we must never lose sight of how these issues at home and beyond do hang together. There is a shame we must direct at the shareholders and beneficiaries of the armaments industry. And what we need now in Europe, as new positions are being taken up, is a Europe that offers hope, not a Europe that offers war, or a Europe that invites us to be part of the armaments industry. I think the possibilities are there, as we would say in Irish, na féidirachtaí atá ann. Our efforts can best result, we must ask ourselves, in seeking to build a society of inclusion at home, while working together with other nations to build a peaceful, sustainable, hopeful world that eschews the poisonous ideals of imperialism, racism, and othering, and embraces the decent instincts of humanity. And I'm actually very proud that my presidency was one when I, in fact, actually addressed the issue of the colonizing's legacy. I saw the difficulty with which, for example, when I wrote one article of the attacks which our critique I made of imperialism brought. But these are issues upon which there are not two sides. You must oppose imperialism. You must deal with the consequences of colonization. And you must pay your debt to the world in terms of the destruction that has been done on the life prospects of people that have been ravaged in the 19th century by these ignorant, superior attitudes towards humanity. It is our responsibility to steer this current discourse of militarism towards one of peace, understanding, and cooperation. And it is within our communities and through the discourse heard by those within communities that our young people are first exposed to the value of peaceful life, peace with nature and each other. And all the evidence is that globally, nationally, that is what in fact people are seeking when they are allowed. And kindness is precious. What we communicate with each other and how it must not be in any form of cold language that invokes fear. The suggestion, for example, that the myth of progress turned into efficiency meant that you were really at the top of the tree when you were talking coldly to another citizen. This distortion of consciousness that is part of the poison of capitalism. I think that rather the alternative in language is that one can convey a warmth, one that reflects a shared concern and vulnerability for us all living and working together as citizens who are taking responsibilities, seeking to exercise those responsibilities, stretched to the best of our capacity from an ethic of good citizenship. May I, as President of Ireland, Uachtaráin, thank you all for that profound and valuable contribution you have been making to your communities and our society, and for being citizens in that sense of whom we can be proud, and from whom we can learn so much as we seek to create a society that is just, fair, and founded on a true solidarity. And I thank you for the example you have been giving. As John has said already, everything that we enjoy this afternoon has been provided with enthusiasm and generosity from good hard work of people at Áras and Uachtaráin, including what she has referred to already, their culinary skills, which contribute in no small part to making the garden party a special event for all of you. I want to thank the St. John of God's people who are with us, who assist us with those who arrive. The Office of Public Works, our civil defence colleagues, tour guides, and all who worked so hard to make this day an occasion. I hope it will be a distinctive occasion of deeper and sustained friendship and joy. I do want to say special thank you and very special to our MC, John Creedon. John has made so many distinguished and wonderful programs that are about place and space and community, for doing such an excellent job chairing proceedings. And of course, my heartfelt thanks to the superb musicians and entertainers we have. Pianist David O'Connor, na cantari Ógas Blachlia, Colm Harragon and his trad group, Dylan Palmer, the Atkinson sisters, the Swing Cats, Will Troy, Declan O'Rourke and Whistle, all of whom will continue to lift our spirits. And Sabina and I just hope that you continue to enjoy the afternoon and that you enjoy all of your time here. And we thank you for being with us. So Barbanach don Tronona is Barbanach don Tawaki. Every blessing for now and into the future. Thank you very much.